Okay, I believe we're live. And let's turn this down just a bit. Here we go. Okay. All right. So, today's Easter, and it's a big day for a lot of people. They believe in Easter. So what I'm going to do is just talk a little bit about what is Easter. It has nothing to do with an Easter bunny. It has nothing to do with the Pope and his relationship with Lucifer. It has nothing to do with the process of anything to do with the illusion behind all the pagan realities that go in with Easter. And even on the day that it's associated. I mean, really, if you're going to do something that's holy, you should know the day that it happened and then bring that day back around and give honor to that day. So not just make it, happy-go-lucky Sunday. It can be any Easter. Yeah. So the reality is that Easter has to do with the resurrection of Jesus the Christ. And that influence for humanity, that influence has to do with the reality that Christ brought to the earth. And the process of death for everybody, it happens in everybody's life. Yeah, the biggest deal is that you're not aware of the fact that you reincarnate. So death is to go to sleep and then come back in a place that you have no idea of past existence or any historical aspect of your reality in life. So this is your first life, as far as you're concerned. And that's not true. Yeah. So you have within you all your previous lives, and they're emanations of you. Yeah, you might have been Joey, you might have been Jill, you may have been Jack, you may have been anybody, but you were somebody in previous lives, and each one of those people are emanations, and all those emanations affect you. Yeah, they make up the character that you are. Yeah, and if you took advantage of people, or you were taken advantage of, those have very bad outcomes to the way you look at life and how you trust people and whether or not you can be in life in any given way. Yeah. So what that is based on is the reality that we have a mind that is so limited to its cognition, to its recognition, to its ability to have a recapitulation of a previous life take place while you're alive is almost impossible. And there's a reason why. Yeah. The process of our life is stored in super higher consciousness. Yeah, and that higher consciousness is actually located just outside the planet. Yeah, in a location just beyond the biosphere. And this is scientifically understood. And there's a lot of people who understand this. And they understand that the relationship of our consciousness basically is driven by the reality that we are in our consciousness, we are down in the atmosphere, not the ionosphere or the biosphere or any relationship to the iconosphere. Yeah, so the higher relationship of our mind is based on the planet. And the planet and its aura, the planet and its outer consciousness is a collective consciousness. But it's a collective consciousness of very few, because few people get to that higher consciousness up there. Yeah, so what happened when Jesus left his body was that he went interdimensional. And in that process, it opened up another place within time and space. A non-relative relationship, a place where there is no time and space. It's like alpha, omega. And that relationship Jesus had, Jesus went into that, and in that process was able to reach that iconosphere and stored his consciousness in the iconosphere. which is where only the highest of any entities on earth can tap into that and hear it and understand it and communicate with it and be directed by it and have it in their mind that brings about things to solve in the world. Like right now, we have a problem with the biosphere. We have a problem with the environment, and that's because it's our mind. It's our mind. It's not a biosphere. It's not an environment that's outside ourselves, that we breathe and all that kind of stuff. It's in reality a consciousness. This whole thing around us is a consciousness, and the outer sphere of that consciousness is the Noosphere. Now, and I'm not the only one who knows this shit, so let me just point it out to you. So that's a standard understanding. Easter is the resurrection of Jesus 3 days after the crucifixion. But then there is a thing that's called the omega point. And the omega point is supposed to be in the future, when everything in the universe spirals toward a final point of unification. Omega, alpha, omega, the beginning of creation and the spiraling point where everything unifies and comes back into that. So that omega point has everything to do with Jesus the Christ, because it's the omega point that makes Jesus the Christ the planetary logos. The omega point resembles the Christian logos, namely the Christ, who draws all things into himself, who is God from God, light from light, true God from true God, and through him all things were made. So this is Alpha Omega. This is the Creator. This is the co-creator, the Son and God. So this is the relationship that God has with the Son, with the Christ. And in that, the earth was created. And everything around it was created. And as part of that is consciousness, a mind that's involved in the process of the earth itself. So Christ is the cosmic Christ, or the omega of Revelation. He is an emanation of God, which is made of matter and experienced the nature of evolution by being born in the world and then dying, just as anybody else will. But our problem is that most humanity's consciousness doesn't go very far. It's extremely unevolved. The resurrection from the dead was not heaven, but to the Noosphere, where Christ will be waiting at the end of time, where he becomes one with divinity, the area of convergence of all spirituality and spiritual beings, where Christ will be waiting at the end of time, where the earth reaches the omega point, and everything that exists will become one with divinity. That's the plan. That's the plan. It's an outcome plan. But it required the death of Christ and the resurrection, the life and death of Christ and the resurrection. That resurrection got him outside the planet into the higher consciousness, where he then stores his soul, his consciousness, his mind, and every activity that I carry on this earth is done up there. Every activity that I do, from the time I was born to the time that I die, that all that activity goes into the Noosphere. And the Noosphere, is the process which we all come closer to. What is the Noosphere? The Noosphere is the planetary sphere of mind, or thinking layer of the planet Earth. To grasp the idea of the Noosphere, we must elevate our consciousness and be open ourselves to the most general, elemental, cosmic principles of life on Earth. The Noosphere is the next stage of evolution of human consciousness. As the mental sheath of the planet, the Noosphere characterizes the mind. Consciousness and as unitary phenomenon. This means that the quality and the nature of our individual and collective thoughts. Now imagine, you've got Putin, you've got the Pope, you got the Dalai Lama, you got all these people on earth. How do you get them to think and be blessed by the Christ, who has a totally different way of looking at life? Yeah. How do the two merge? It merges by Christ taking superiority over higher consciousness. And being in that higher consciousness, it becomes a consciousness of the earth itself. So every time you reincarnate, it evolves every living human being on the earth. This means that the quality and the nature of our individual and collective thoughts directly affects the noosphere and creates the quality of our environment, the biosphere. That's why we got so much shit. The historic process is changing dramatically before our eyes. Mankind, taken as a whole, is becoming a powerful geological force. Humanity's mind and work face the problem of reconstructing the biosphere in the interest of freely thinking mankind as a single entity. This new state of the world we are approaching without noticing it. It's the noosphere. All the thoughts and ideas, oh, we need solar. Well, we make solar. How did we get to that? We need electric cars. Bam, we got electric cars. How did we get to that? It comes from this state of mind that's more open in that level of consciousness than it is on a lower level of consciousness. So as I raise everybody up into this consciousness, we start having collective consciousness, and we decide on things that are Christ-like. The return of Christ as the fulfillment of the noosphere, as well as the consummation of all the universe, according to the law of time, the end of linear time begins the time of the noosphere and the return of Christ consciousness. That's pretty awesome, yeah? And how do we do that? Well, this is our universe. This is our cosmos. This is our universe. This is the law that is applied within our universe. Every single level of it, every single planet is all structured in this way. So I built a planetary healing center. And that planetary healing center has within it an etheric weaver that hangs down and has that very same spiraling effect that's happening up here is happening in here. And that happens inside this pyramid. And that pyramid is geometrically connected to the entire planet. So there's nothing about the process of such higher mind and the elevating of consciousness into humanity and raising them up. It can be done in a science like this, using sacred geomancy, using sound, elevating the consciousness and sending it into the oonosphere. So here, imagine all the pyramids I make are all around the earth, everywhere around the earth, yeah? And they're all affecting the noosphere. All of it. Every one of them is penetrating and receiving from the consciousness on the higher levels. Yeah? It's not about channeling from people. It's not about anything like that. We put out these pyramids. People have them in their homes, in healing centers, in clinics, all over the planet. Literally thousands and thousands and thousands of them are all over the planet. And here in Shambhala, we have them. This orb and pyramid sits on top of every single geometric circular form, which is a dome. So that dome and circular, if you think of a dome, it is applied circle, and this applied circle is the same as a pyramid. It has the same geometric configuration and structure pattern to it. So when we put a pyramid over the top of a dome, we're including the circle and the pyramid together. And that's a very, very powerful geometric reality. And we do this in Shambhala on all of them. So you see we have 6 domes that has 6 pyramids and one large central pyramid. All of the pyramids are exactly the same height. And all of them send out the frequency that goes out to the planet. So imagine, here we are. Let me show you this. I've got this. This is our planet, its sacred geomancy, and healing of the Noosphere through this planetary healing center. And all the pyramids and sacred design, the influence of the pujas that I do, the setup of each of the invocations that are done, all of that is to be radiating out onto the planet and into everyone. So this is our regular solar forms that we would wear, or a Vajra that we would have. All of this is connecting to the higher mind, to the consciousness of the higher mind. Then all the different weavers, all of it is etheric healing, weaving communication devices. So it helps to change how we have communication. This is a series of orbs that go on top of the dome. And in that is large etheric weavers and the grid that looks just like a grid that you receive satellite dish from. That's circular, and it's a dish that radiates out and pulses out into the universe. So that's the influence that we're receiving and giving. That pulsing, that communication is right here in this device. And we see right between the 2 windows is what I call a fire star, and that looks just like that right there. That looks just like a satellite dish, but it's actually radiating out into the Noosphere, and it's communicating, communicating with my music and my pujas and the sacred geomancy that's in all these forms and in the earth. So there's none of this that isn't moving to apply the Christ principle into the earth and bring about a mass healing. So all this sacred geomancy and applied Shambhala processes, it doesn't just affect people who have the tools and people who listen to my music. It affects the entire planet and its consciousness and its evolution. It's based on evolution. So the whole entire thing is set so that we carry out the evolution and the principle of God. Because Christ is an emanation of God, but God is the planner, God is the creator. And here we're working on the process of bringing that reappearance process into the light and incarnating it back on earth. So that's a lot. That's a lot of work being put out and transmitted, and it has to do with the resurrection. The process that took place in resurrection, the process that manifested Christ, and the energetic principles behind revelation, which means that everybody reincarnates, everybody has a soul, everybody has a higher consciousness, and that consciousness is all stored in the Christ. So the Christ radiates out, but when the Christ radiates out, it doesn't radiate out into the astral plane. It doesn't radiate out into a lower mind where we have conflicts and intellectual misunderstandings and all kinds of things that go on from mind itself, emotional processes that just can't get beyond the limitations of an understanding. So the influence of Christ is to clear those roads, clear those influences of lower mind, and become the influence of both Alpha and Omega, which is the transcendental consciousness, the soul level consciousness that's provided by Christ. Yeah, so it's a logoic state. And this Easter, everything about Easter has to do with believing that Christ is reappearing, that Christ is on the earth, walking around, and that it's not a church anymore. It's not about whether or not we believe Christ died on the cross for our sins or anything like that. That is done and over with. We all got that. Now it's a matter of us recapitulating the influence of being on earth with Christ as he continuously reincarnates and brings about the recapitulation of our souls. Yeah. So that's a difficult thing. It's a process of transmutation that has to do with things that we don't know is going on. You know, we take it all very personal. We think it's all this and that. But in reality, it's a transcendent state. Yeah. So listening to my pujas and doing meditation and going into soul therapy and having an involved reality of receiving elemental forces that I am blessing. Nobody else is blessing those forces. You know, you may die and think you're going to go right to heaven, but in reality, there's a lot of layers to that process. And whether or not you make it to heaven, whether or not you are in process of even having a relationship to heaven, is completely up to Jesus the Christ. Has nothing to do with your desire or whether or not you've paid the Pope or anybody. You know, it has everything to do with the recapitulation and the resurrection that comes with the coming of the Lord. And the Lord, as time goes on, the evolution of the Lord is more and more has to do with people having a consciousness of the Lord in their mind, in their body, in their way of action, the things they do. Yeah. Every day there's an awakening within that. It's called a logoic aspect, which means everybody is being born in the light of the Lord, and that the consciousness that's in the Lord is being put into you, but it's not coming from you. It's coming from the Lord. So this is an evolutionary process where, the process of needing for evolutionary process is there, but the making and the manifesting of that evolutionary process is the logoic aspect, the cosmic Christ aspect that's pulling it off. Yeah, so that's Easter. That's our thing with everybody's thing with Easter. And so we really don't have a choice when it comes to Easter. It doesn't matter what the Pope says, doesn't matter what this and that says. It's a matter of whether or not you understand that the process has to do with the reappearance of Christ. Imagine that you have Easter. Well, the Easter is about the Christ leaving his body and dying, and then 3 days later resurrecting and reappearing. Yeah, well, what happens when that reappearance takes place? Well, usually now we all aware of the fact that he is an omnipresent being, that he could be reached in any time or space, in any reality of dimension. Yeah, Christ can be reached, communicated with, and offer assistance to every living thing. So that's not the way it was before the coming of Christ. Christ made it that because Christ ascended beyond death and transmuted the relationship of our limitation about being in a physical body. That meant consciousness. So when Christ was limited in a material way, he was also limited by light, he was limited by consciousness, he was limited by what it is in ourselves that we can relate to the Christ with. So in Christ's ability to resurrect and redeem and go into the higher levels of the process, going beyond death, being able to resurrect and achieve that goal was the outcome of Christ's consciousness. And that's stored in this area beyond the biosphere. It gets us beyond every single thing in limitation that we have going on, that will go on in the future and is going on now. All of that is being cleared and understood in the higher mind of transcendental understanding. And that's where Christ is at. And nothing is coming from, Tesla or Edison or all these people who incarnate. What they're getting their information from is the no zone, and that particular consciousness that's coming from Christ is on that higher level of consciousness that is transcendental and telepathic, and it has no astral desire body aspects within it. They're all aspects that come from God's plan, God's way of making things move the way they should in an evolutionary spiritual way. Yeah. So that's the deal, that the resurrection, the Easter process, the whole thing is in reality a science. And it's based on the Alpha and Omega, the second coming of Christ, not just the death of Christ, not just the resurrection of Christ, but the second coming of Christ. And that second coming is when a vortex is manifested. And that is in the body of the second coming, the vehicle, the person known as the second coming is so overwhelming in the process of being the emanation of God that everything comes together in a vortex and goes into a center point where everything comes into that center point. All the universe, all the cosmos, every single thing comes into that center point. And that center point is Jesus the Christ. So in the reappearance, Christ makes earth and everything on it and all of us the center point for Alpha Omega. In other words, a transfiguration of all things that have ever happened. Yeah, anything that's ever happened on earth gets completely transfigured. Yeah, and it's blessed beyond any wild imagination because it has no material connection any further after this point. It all is just divine. Yeah, the orientation of divinity. So that's the outcome of Easter. That's what Christ is doing. Christ built the ashram. Christ developed, all the tools. Christ does the puja. Christ turns the wheel. Christ is the emanation coming from God and a manifestation of God. And the externalization process to bring harmony is the working out of a plan, and you can see it. You can buy the tools, you can have a weaver, you can work with any of the tools, the vajras, get a great big pyramid, do all the meditations and go from one day after another, clearing the material plane aspect of your limitations, of your consciousness, and of your ability to change. All that is very much affected by my work, by my tools, and all the things that I put out. So it just decrystallizes your lack of ability to reach that higher level of consciousness on the planet. And when you get into that, you get to a universal collective consciousness where all of a sudden sentiency, masses of humanity, move up into sentiency, and everybody's compassion and empathy. Everybody wants to help Ukraine. Everybody wants to stop the war. Everybody wants to give up all their life savings, to make a difference. And that's where we're at. That's the presence of Easter in the world. It's not about Musk or Ukraine or anything. It's about Jesus the Christ and the constant daily effort of putting all this out around the world. Imagine, this took 35 years to get all that going, pyramids around the world and everything. It took 25 to 30 years to get these pyramids made correctly and able to be shipped and in people's homes. It took another 22 years to get this pyramid and all of Shambhala, the land bought, the organization set up, the church created, the building of Shambhala manifested after maybe 10 years of hard work of building all the different domes, putting these pyramids around it, and every single one of them, were handmade, welded pyramids, and each one had to go around on top of every one of those monolithic domes, and then the orbs had to go in. These nice orbs. They had to go on top of every single one of the pyramids. So you can just imagine the amount of work that is done in the process in order to bring about the ascension of humanity. And it's consistent. It's what goes on in the universe, what goes on in the cosmos. It is who we are. And that process is the integrity of our planet. The fact that it is consistent to the planet itself, the universe, the cosmos, how it works, how it's elevated. So by building these pyramids, by putting a speaker there, putting a big earth etheric weaver hanging there inside of a pyramid that's inside of another pyramid, and it's radiating out into the earth and it's radiating up into the sky, you could just imagine the effect of that. And there's nobody on earth actually doing anything like this other than Jesus the Christ. Because Jesus the Christ did what? He resurrected. And he's resurrecting the consciousness of the Logos, because he's the planetary Logos. Yeah. So that's what Easter's about. That's the process of Easter. And the process of why we have an Easter is because Jesus Christ allowed himself to go on a cross, be beaten all night long, have my ankle broken and one of my legs broken and my shoulder broken and 7 ribs broken, and beaten with a cat o' nine tails, which means leather with little hard metal stakes sticking out of them, about 120 of those on a whip, as they beat the crap out of my back and my legs and the front and the back and the sides and the back of my neck, all my arms, everything, all day, all night. Until I was then had to carry the cross. And you all know that story, But it took that much conflict. It took that much sacrifice, I could have died during the beating, but I didn't, It's just the way it was. God just kept me going. And it went on all night long until the morning. And that was like about 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, well after the sun came up, and it was very hot. So dragging that cross up that road, and it wasn't down a road, it was up a road, and being able to, I fell many times, and, get back up, hold that cross, get to that point, it was all a lot of conflict. And every single step, every single thing was a way in which I could then absorb the curses of humanity and bring those back when I come back, so that as I'm going through this process, the suffering, the sacrifice, the martyr, all that kind of crap, and then be on a cross and then die, that process of death and going through the suffering is a shift of bringing all the chakras into extreme chaos. All of them not fighting for life, but fighting for spirituality. Fighting for love, fighting for the light, fighting for every chakra to be still in a harmonic state, despite the fact that I'm beating the crap of and I'm sitting on a cross and everything else. I still had to maintain a harmonic state so that everything could be in right relationship. It's a matter of, even though, on a cross, even though beaten and everything, I still had healthy chakras, and I still had my will with God going on, 4th ray to the 1st ray. I still had everything going on, right relationship to my throat center, the things I said and how I reacted to everything, and my 6th ray to my heart and my 7th ray to my throat. All those things was a test of integrity and character and all kinds of things that would then come up inside of humanity when I return. Which is now, So the process is that was a lot to go through, but it all comes back on the day that I was born in 1951, and from every day on to 70 years today and 365 days a year, all of that is the same as being beaten and going on a cross and suffering. So it is providing a karmic alignment, a healing of grace into humanity that is stopping the wars and stopping Vietnam, and it's going to end this nuclear situation, because I went through so much that allows me so much karmic right relationship of having dealt with the human nature of things, put against me, that I was able to deal with it in such a way that when we come up with war and all the things that we're coming against right now, my way of dealing with it is dramatically different. So that enters into humanity and how you're going to deal with your way of dealing with the war. Or are you going to share? Are you going to care? Are you going to put out this war? Are you going to end it without nuclear? Or are you going to do it with all these different alternatives and everything? And we are. We're going to do everything right. We're going to manifest in a totally different way than we have ever done before. And it's mainly because of the resurrection of Christ. And the opportunities that we have in this world is due to what you would think to be all the terrible things that happened to Jesus Christ. But in reality, for Christ, those things are things that will cleanse and heal the planet. It was something he paid for. He paid for your sins. He paid for the process of being in this world today, a world where nuclear war is prevalent, where enormous disease and hate and shooting and all the things that go on a day-to-day basis here on earth today they're all up against Jesus the Christ. And everything I went through is in my body, and I'm using it in order to counteract the forces of evil that are coming at you. So, and with all of that, I have the ability to build Shambhala. I have the ability to create new tools, technologies, and create the pujas and advance all the processes of your soul, throughout all this time, the work that I'm doing. So there's nothing stagnant. There's nothing slowed down. This isn't about a pagan reality of Easter or Christmas or anything like that. I am busy. I am doing what it takes to bring about a world change that is going to bring all the divinity that I have in me is going to be pushed into the cells and mind and the hearts of every living human being that's on this earth. And there's nothing that I will ever do to keep that from manifesting, and I do everything beyond your wildest imagination in order to make it manifest. I make it manifest 24/7, and it's never stopped. It's constantly going, constantly radiating out into the outer Noosphere, and it's manifesting into your heart, into humanity, even into Putin, even into the European nations, even into creating NATO as a bigger organization to stop all wars. Every single thing that is seemingly terrible right now, Christ is using through his resurrection and his reappearance to stop it all and heal it. So let's do a puja. Okay, so this is called I Take a Body. Okay, just relax. You'll be listening to the puja, and about when I start the Om, we'll all Om together, and about every 10 seconds I will continue repeating the Om until it's the end of the puja. So, but we won't start the Om until I start. So just relax and pay attention. That body is alive. I know its life. I therefore know my mother. I use a body. That body is not me. I serve the group, and in this serving live within the body, detached, a son of God. I know myself. I infuse a body. I am its life, and in that life shall I see life. That life is known as love. I am the love of God. I know the Father, and I know His life is love. I am the body and its loving life. I am the self whose quality is love. I am the life of God Himself. The Mother, Father, Son am I. Behind these three stands the unknown God. That God am I. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of mankind. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of mankind. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men and women, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, we call the race of mankind. Let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth.
7. The aspects of love of God. 7. The colors of the manifesting one. Sevenfold the word. 7. The energies. And sevenfold the path back to the center of peace. Let the disciple live in love and love in life. Son of God, a product of the union of spirit and matter. The soul is an embodiment of consciousness of mind, the expression of divine intelligent awareness. The soul is a unity of energy, vibrating in unison with one of the 7 ray lives, encoded by a particular ray of light. The personality of the soul is the embodiment of love, applied intelligently, producing an attractive form which will serve to express that loving intelligence. The soul is intended to be the embodiment of divine purpose, applied in great active creativity, which produces the power of creative love. We are born of the love of Father for the Mother, of the desire of life for form. Express the love, the magnetic attractiveness of God's nature, and the responsiveness of form nature, and the I am consciousness itself of the awareness of deity in life.
Okay, just relax. So this higher consciousness that I'm speaking of and outside of our biosphere and is the reason why Tibetans came to my house when I was 9 years old. because I was already speaking on that consciousness by the time I was probably around 2 or 3 days old. So everything has been under that influence. This is me in Tibet or in Nepal at the Maitreya Vihar. My consciousness is the process that not only I, but great meditators, great yogis and others spend their time meditating and practice of Buddhism in order to receive the Tushita Bodhisattva Buddha consciousness in the Sangha. And that is a light that comes from Buddha the Christ, Jesus the Christ. And this has been going on a long time. I've been doing this for a very long time. So you could see me in different monasteries doing the same thing, and other monasteries and doing the same thing, and so when great yogis come, they're my friends. They're the ones that know me, recognize me, and work with me immediately. And I'm only 33 years old, and I'm meeting this guy, Swami Dharmajyoti. He takes me as his master and seeks that I start giving initiations all over Nepal. So that is a very common thing for me. Here I'm with Shamar Rinpoche. I'm not with, I am with Shamar Rinpoche here. You see me over there with Shamar Rinpoche. And on the right, this is the new 17th Karmapa, and the baby, and this is his wife to his next to him, and the baby that he has in his arms is the reincarnation of Sharmapa. So that's how well I work within the field of receiving this consciousness. I raised Sharmapa up, and this is what I did. I'll show you a video of what I did to him in order to make him available for him to receive, be reincarnated, and be taken into the family of the Karmapa as his son. This is Sharmapa and Karmapa. Karmapa was 23 years old at that time. Karmapa was 15 years old there.
This is built in the form of a temple. So when you work with it, your temple, you Buddha, right? And that Buddha is manifesting inside of here into everything.
I see.
Including plants, animals.
I see. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. So good.
And the sky vajra, that protects. It sends out the emanations of your light. When you use it, the sky vajra, it's like this. You feel like using it to anoint and to hold it in this form. This one, you feel like playing with it, move it from hand to hand. So the sky vajra protects people by radiating your light out. Where this one draws all the Buddha up into the world.
That time, I never heard of this type of instruction. Never heard.
Yes.
At that time, when you brought here,
Yes.
I just thought,
Yes.
this back vajra, this is earth.
Exactly. I'll be giving classes and demonstrate how this works, why it works like this, so that my kind of teaching, my kind of teaching is synthesizes very much all the Buddhaic teachings and puts it into a form to where every Lama can take on the same kind of emanations that the Rinpoche can take on. When we go into our emanations, many emanations come into us when we begin a puja. We collect, begin collecting our emanations. And the same quality in a Lama is there too. It's very hard for them to receive back their emanations. So when we use this type of work, it quickens the quality of the Lama to go much further up as a representative like a Rinpoche. Because Rinpoche has, dharma is the only thing that happens. One is moved, and one cannot move outside of it. Where a lesser lama has choice, but a Rinpoche or a greater being has no choice. Their choice is with dharma. And so in this case, it helps to bring about that very quickly. In all the temples, everywhere that one teaches, any of our temples, any of the this particular Gampa or any of them, wherever Puja goes on, that kind of communication begins going into the temples. So if I teach in Swaminath in a pyramid, then when they go back and do what they do in their Gampa, the Gampa begins activating in the way that I'm expressing it in the pyramid. Where right now it's not quite activated. All the elements and all the deities that we can bring together need to be activated, and then we're protected. And the teachings are further. Right?
I see. That is absolutely right.
Yes.
Yep. Like you said, that's absolutely right. And what that means is that I'm the higher mind. I'm the logos. Yeah. And things I do are way up there. Yeah. But if you're in good consciousness, you could reach up and receive my teaching. But you have to reach up. You have to go up to receive my teachings. You can't receive them down here. You can't receive them middle of the way. You can't receive them almost part of the way. You have to have faith in me. You have to see me. You have to have faith in me. You have to know that I'm your teacher. That's what happened to Shambhala Rinpoche. He was, without any question, he knew that I was his teacher and that everything was going to be all right. You know, but the process is that, you know, they're Tibetan Buddhism. They're not me. They can't even take on the word Christ. They can't even talk about Jesus. Yeah. So I'm working everything out. Yeah. And it's happening through this process that I'm doing. Yeah. Imagine here we have Christ in human cosmic dimension as the animator of evolution. The Noosphere. The Noosphere is a planetary sphere of mind, of a thinking layer of the planet. To grasp the idea of the Noosphere, we must elevate our consciousness and open ourselves to the most general, elemental, cosmic principles of life on Earth. That's why when I give teachings, I say it's about lifestyle and it's very simple. And it can't be changed. It can't be any different than the way I'm putting it, because I am the outer layer of consciousness. There is no process of it. We're all evolving into it. Yeah. So that sphere, that mind, that thinking layer is Christ consciousness. That's my consciousness. That's my layer. You know, so that's why they say in that the Christ in human cosmic dimension is the animator of all evolution. Yeah, so you're going to have faith in me, because, you know, it's not about me having faith in you. It's not about anything of, you know, some kind of weird faith thing. It's a matter of whether or not you believe 100% what I'm saying, because you need to. Yeah, you need to get away from Easter bullshit or this and that bullshit and listen to the things I'm saying. The Noosphere is the next stage of evolution of human consciousness. The mental sheath of the planet, the Noosphere, characterizes the mind of consciousness as a unitary phenomenon. This means that the quality and the nature of our individual and collective thoughts directly affects the Noosphere and creates the quality of our environment and the biosphere. So why is it I'm saying you should be carnivore? Because I care. Because I know that this is the outcome, and I really would rather not take you another 10, 20, 30,000 years to reach that state of consciousness. I would rather that we're working for the earth, we're working for everything in cooperation, but you know, the problem is that you don't even know I exist, and if you do know I exist, you choose in and out whether or not you trust what I have to say. Because what I say is not the same as what you're picking up down here in your lower mind. And where I'm speaking way up there in this other sphere where you can go, and everybody can go, and we'll all be all right. Yeah, but it's not an astral thing. So that door has to be closed. Yeah, so that's basically it. That's my sharing for Easter. That I hope you get what I'm saying, that this isn't a pagan situation. It isn't about, Bunny, and it isn't about, me just going on a cross and dying for your sins, and come back, and now you can come to church and go drink and do all the bad shit you want to do. It's not like that. You have to think, and you have to realize that Christ himself is the emanation of God, and his only job is to animate your very being. But if you don't allow that free will through faith, and allow the consciousness of Christ to enter you and be a collective consciousness, Christ consciousness, that directs your very being, then you don't. That's all there is to it. So, try and take advantage of this Easter. It's not exactly Easter, but it's close. We're trying to come to some understanding as to that, but get a better understanding as to what it has happened with me, Jesus the Christ, and how resurrection is manifested for the betterness of humanity, for the future of humanity, and for me to take on the enormous amount of lack of ability for you to cooperate and go to higher mind and see things from a very different view, where you're in a smorgasbord, you think you got to have everything. But what I'm saying is that's not true. What you need is very little of anything. And that if you do it the way I'm putting it out, and you can't get it because it's coming consciously, if you do it the way I'm putting it out, then you will find that your entire environment will change dramatically as an element of blessing. No wars, no anger, no one shot at the mall, no one grabbed their car and shot some person needlessly. Not one of those things will happen, animated by me. They won't happen because animated by me. But you're in this free will bullshit thing, and that free will is getting you shot and dead and cancer and all the bad things you can ever imagine. So I would think that it'd be better if you began your process of having faith in God, seeking out the incarnation of God as Jesus the Christ, and pay attention to everything he might say or do, because he is redeeming you and the entire world. And you have no idea that that's the only purpose that he serves on the earth. Not to serve you or do things, but to actually redeem the planet and change its consciousness. The little teachings that I do give are teachings that will last forever. They're located on those higher realms. So they're going to be there. They're stored there. And it's a matter of you dying and coming back and getting your head together and tapping into my consciousness. And in time, you will be funneled into a point. And you will be standing